Hello, hello.
How many of you know a young person who's on social media too much? It's a rhetorical question. We all do. Gen Zers spend an average of 3 hours per day on social media. Now, I'm not up here to preach at you in an old man, get off my lawn fashion, because we all know there's clear benefits to the internet. What I can tell you is that the rate of young people who experienced a major depressive episode in the past year has increased by 52%. We're not sleeping, we're physically addicted to our phones, and all the while, we're wary of big tech companies mining our data. Take Jake, for example. Jake estimates that in the past 7 years since he discovered Twitter, 80 to 90% of his media consumption has transitioned to the app. And yet, Jake told me he's not happy. He attributed the constant vitriol spewed on Twitter as seriously worsening his mental health. There's nothing he can do about it because he's so used to opening his phone and clicking on the app. And in talking to other users, we realized that Jake wasn't alone in suffering from this dangerous online environment. The digital world often reacts to things in a similar fashion. Take August 4th, one of the deadliest days in American history. First, the thoughts and prayers. Then, the horrific stories. Finally, calls for change, constant bickering, and then, nothing. When tragedies like this happen, I look inward. How can I possibly enact change? I can't possibly solve massive problems like gun violence or environmental deterioration by myself. As a journalist, I could write something, but I've already done that, and at a certain point, I join in by shouting into the void. What I realized I could do was use my skills as an orator and community builder to actually drive real conversation. My name is Nathan Graber-Lipperman. I'm the CEO of Powder Blue Media. This is our team. And we're creating Unplugg'd, a lifestyle brand for Gen Z. First, let's backtrack a little bit. In May of 2017, I launched a long-form cultural storytelling website as my answer and reaction to clickbait. We started to gain more and more contributors, and by January 2018, we'd also launched a podcast network. 3.88 million Google impressions, 250,000 page views, and 15,000 podcast listens later, we'd gained some traction. But it was the stories we were telling, the quality of them, and the diversity of our coverage that really resonated with our fans. And yet, this summer, we got a little stuck. We'd proven that young people have a voice to bring to the table, but could we amplify that voice past a passion project and into a sustainable business? We looked at what being unplugged meant to us, which was turning off the mainstream narratives to engage in authentic, meaningful conversations. We then asked friends and fans of the brand, what does being unplugged mean to you?
What being unplugged means to me is really just speaking your mind and trying to let go of all the, narratives of Main Street society, and really just being you, speaking your truth, and not letting other people fearmonger you into being cookie cutter and just like them.
So we know that our media is not working for us, and even worse, it's causing harm. Therefore, we decided to leverage our brand to facilitate real conversations among our peers. In short, we became a Gen Z lifestyle brand that makes media, clothing, and events. We want to turn the word unplugged from an adjective into a noun. Unplugged is an authentic, in-person, and in-depth conversation about a topic you find important. It can be on anything from student athletes getting compensated to our trade war with China and the ripple effects on our culture and life. When we came to this realization, we knew we had to build a new website for 2 reasons. First, Medium's paywall was limiting users' access to our content. And second, we need to learn more about our users. Through 3 weeks running our new website, returning users have averaged over 6 minutes per session. Therefore, we're allocating over 50% of our revenue to our journalist team to continue promoting dialogue through our current channels. Speaking of revenue, our fans can support us on Patreon, where we're gaining more and more supporters every week. We've also opened up our podcast network to sponsorships. We're currently bringing in $175 a month through this, and we're working with other brands and stores in the near future to gain more sponsors. We designed merchandise, having sold over $600 worth in the past year. Moving forward, not only are we crowdsourcing designs from our talented community, we're also donating 10% of all sales to Mental Health America. And finally, our events. These events come in many different forms, including larger town halls on topics such as hot take culture and student entrepreneurship. They're also including smaller, more intimate gatherings at places such as coffee shops. where our users can set up unplugs and our sponsors pick up the tab. The thing is, Gen Z grew up with the internet, and it might come as a surprise, but Gen Zers place a high value on things such as human interaction, authenticity, and creativity. And in the next 2 years, 20% of the workforce will be comprised of this generation, slated to hold the greatest purchasing power in the history of our country. Looking back at Jake, he told me this: I want to learn. I want to interact with other people. He even bought a ticket to our first event. So what we're saying is this: the next generation is complex and nuanced. They're also ready to tackle our problems by making real in-person relationships and conducting dialogue. To some, we're creating authentic conversation through our online content, events, and merchandise. We're asking you to join us in our movement. For more information, you can log on at beunplugged.com/join us and buy a t-shirt for that young person in your life. Even better, go create an Unplugged of your own, because at the end of the day, how can we progress without discourse? Thank you.